Yes, I just want a couple of announcements to make. One of them is that the cases to be presented in webinars, I've sent an email to everybody inviting those cases. Dr. Yash had asked me this is a better way of doing this webinar so that we have invited cases and everybody participates in them by sending the cases beforehand and we can plan the schedule. So I'm requesting all of you to kindly send the cases so that we can sort them out. Secondly, on the February 6th, there is going to be a mini symposium on ventricular tachycardia with international faculty. So I'm just pre-informing you all so that you make time for this webinar. It is going to be again at 8 p.m. in the evening. Now, as we go forward, I invite my four moderators, Dr. Amit Bora, Dr. JP Sharantar, Dr. John Roshan, and Dr. J. Lawrence to please start the proceedings of today's web series. Welcome, four of you.
Thanks, Vanita. I think let's start with Dr. Yadav's case. It's already up here. Seems interesting. Narrow QRS tachycardia with a VA block and varying VA interval. Over to you, Yadav.
Thank you, Indian Heart Rhythm and all the teachers of electrophysiology who taught me sometimes in the past also. So 41-year-old male presented with recurrent paroxysmal palpitation for 7-month duration. Baseline ECG showed no pre-excitation. ECG during palpitation showed regular narrow QRS tachycardia with retrograde P wave in the tail of the QRS, suggestive of typical of AV narrative. Echo showed structurally and functionally normal heart. So we took him for EPS and RF. So this is the baseline ECG outside tachycardia documented ECG where it showed typical of AV narrative with P wave on in the tail of the QRS in 2-3 AVF. And this is the intracardiac electrogram in sinus rhythm. From above is all ECG 1, 2, and V1 from HRA to HRA. His proximal, his distal. His distal is my ablation as well. We don't keep any additional ablation catheter. I keep ablation catheter the his and record his and then move away from there. And proximal to distal is the arrangement of the CS, and right ventricular catheter is the lung. And this is the atrial extra stimulation done, which showed some jump. And this is on atrial extra stimulation. There is a jump, and then tachycardia is induced, and VA is not associated at all. And VA atrial number is quite less, much less as compared to ventricular number. And all VV intervals are also varying. So with this irregular tachycardia with less atrial or VA, you can say dissociated, what is the mechanism of this tachycardia? So what we have thought of, I will go, and this is the 12-lead ECG of this tachycardia. So what we have thought of is what are the differential diagnosis of this tachycardia is the automatic junctional tachycardia with VA block. Another one is the AVNRT with final upper common pathway block. Third one is the concealed nodoventricular or nodovascular, that is NFRT or NBRT, or sometimes rarely intrahesian re-entry. Since VV interval varying so much so that the nodovascular or nodoventricular pathway unlikely to be associated. So either the diagnosis is AVNRT or JT. But so much of VA dissociation as well as VV interval variation, AT and AVRT through the external AP is straightforwardly excluded. So what is left is the AVNRT or JT. But if you see the onset is clearly associated with a jump. Means this cannot happen with the JT. JT cannot happen like this. Either it is triggered activity or automaticity. This cannot will come with a jump with regularly. Every time it is easily induced tachycardia, no isoprenal anything, and associated with VA dissociation. But when we did the ventricular pace extra stimulation, there was retrograde conduction with VA decrement and concentric conduction. But when tachycardia induced, this happened. So, one is clear that it is not JT. So it's a AVNRT. Then how will explain these VA this atrial dissociation, but none of the atria is coming out from the HRA. If you see at the onset, there is a it is going through the fast pathway and there is a decrement where sorry, it is going through the slow pathway, retrograde, jump, going through a retrograde through the slow pathway, and then Venki back in the upper common pathway. Then there is a block, and then here from this A, which is the earliest at the distal, which gone up through the slow pathway, has gone through the another antigradally slow pathway, returned back to the fast pathway, and then it gone through the again slow pathway, two slow pathway, one more slower. So it has gone, and another one has got upper pathway block, and then return through the second one is returned through the fast pathway. So I can show you ahead also, and then another gone through the what is called slow retrograde slow pathway. So here and the tachycardia cycle is varying from 330 to 400 milliseconds. So I thought let's pace the ventricle at least faster than 330 milliseconds. So I started pacing at 330 milliseconds, and at least it showed that VA is V to another V is quite far away, so it must not be ventricle is anyhow is part of the tachycardia. So if you see the here also retrograde, this A conducts to the slow pathway, returns to the fast pathway, then it goes through the another slow pathway, and this retrograde goes through the retrograde slow pathway, where the earliest A is in the 7-8 or 7-8 or 7-8 CS7-8, and then again goes through the slow pathway, return through the fast pathway. Again, it has gone through the two slow pathway, one slow pathway, another slow pathway, and the second one returned through the retrograde slow, another slow pathway, then gone through the slow pathway, returned through the fast pathway, and in this way it is varying the atria, atrial. So retrograde upper common pathway is changing between fast pathway and slow pathway, and sometimes blocking the upper common pathway. So this is a region for variation. So if you see, this is the ECG in variation with the QRS showing some morphology variation because of P wave falling on the QRS and leading to variation in the QRS morphology, and cycle length is clearly varying. So this is also here you can say it is 2:1, 2:1 upper common pathway block. But if you see here, it is the earliest A which is coming is in the proximal CS7-8 is near the CS os, and clearly it shows 1:2 response with this this ventricular is retrograde conducting through the another slow pathway. So this is the way how the tachycardia is going on, and ultimately we diagnose it. Yes, it can't be other than AV-NRT. So we went ahead and ablated the slow pathway, and thereafter no tachycardia was. This is the mapping of the slow pathway. This is the distal His, which is our map catheter also showing the potential slow pathway potential, typical slow pathway potential demonstrated by the Jackman, and then junctional came, which is irregular with the retrograde conduction through the fast pathway, and then the tachycardia is no more inducible. So this is the site where ablated, and thereafter no tachycardia was inducible. So this irregular narrow QRS tachycardia with VA block suggests either automatic JT, but this tachycardia was induced by programmed electrical stimulation with a AH jump and terminated by overdrive ventricular pacing, suggests re-entry rather than either triggered activity or automaticity. On V pacing, sinus rhythm, so VA conduction, concentric and decremental suggests retrograde conduction through the AV node. On A pacing, dual AV nodal physiology was present and leads to irregular tachycardia, which is already demonstrated. And this tachycardia may be explained by antegrade dual slow pathway conduction with 1:2 response and retrograde through the fast and retrograde slow pathway. So the above feature suggests DAV, NNT, and AV-NRT re-entry both together in the same patient as the cause of irregular tachycardia with VV variation due to variation in the conduction in the AV nodal reintent circuit. since this tachycardia was not inducible after slow pathway ablation, proves to be AV node. Thank you. This is the first case, and then I will show another more case of dissociation. Any question on this case? I will go back to the tracing.
Yes, Yadav, very interesting case. And you have nicely gone through various steps. So only a couple of observations which I have is that, one, this is not a complete VA block, and there seems to be some kind of a VA association.
Yeah, that's why I given the name VA block, but it's not. It's a kind of
correct.
Association.
So it's just for all of us to kind of revise that it's not a complete VA block. It is some kind of a VA association being there, because the PP interval or the atrial intervals are not absolutely regular. There are some VA conduction, some VA delay, and some VA block. So there is some kind of an association going on. That's number one. Number two, when you say the VV intervals were irregular, I agree. But to my brief eyeballing, again, there seems to be some regularity in the irregularity. So it's not completely irregularly irregular, as is a classic definition for a, when you see an atrial fibrillation. But here you see either VV short or VV long, VV short or VV long. And I think that has to do with the VA conduction. Whenever there is a VA conduction, the next conduction is happening through relatively faster conducting slow pathway as opposed to another complex. So, these all features do tell you that you are dealing with AV node. AV nodal tachycardia only will behave in a manner because they tend to have multiple slow pathways, multiple fast pathways. Their conduction time can vary. So that pickup is there. Now, one of the things to also make sure that we are dealing with AV node reentrant tachycardia is to sometimes give isoprenaline or even ectopics during this irregularity. And, suddenly when there's some kind of a VA block going on, you tend to get into a VA association 1-to-1, or with the isoprenaline also the VA association happens. Did you give isoprenaline at all?
No isoprenaline. Well, just on atrial extra, tachycardia is inducible. Sure.
I think that's one of the things which I would do to consider getting into a 1-to-1 AV nodal reentrant tachycardia. But I think good case.
Can I go to next case, sir?
I have
let other moderators.
Yes,
sir.
I think Yash should probably have.
No, I think JP, with your permission, couple of quick comments.
No, you don't require my permission. You are my boss.
No, one is this illustrates, this very unique case illustrates the value of the high right atrial electrode. If you did not have a catheter in the high right atrium, it would be very difficult to say that these are not AV dissociation sinus complexes. So that's one lesson. I usually don't keep a high right atrial catheter, but this is a good example. And my question to RD is that could you demonstrate 1:2 conduction during atrial extras? With atrial extras at stimulation, could you demonstrate 1:2 conduction?
No, here not in the, because once I gave atrial extra, there is a jump and then tachycardia inducible with this dissociation like this. So that's why I could not able to demonstrate clearly that 1:2 response here. But in tachycardia, how to explain is because of that.
So, there are various ways of explaining that behavior. It may not necessarily be, 2-for-1 response. So for one atrial complex, you have two ventricular complexes. That may not necessarily be the mechanism. For example, this is a frozen frame which you're showing. It could very well happen. So let's see right from the beginning that you have a VA conduction here, and then you have a V which appears to block. But now the retrograde could be a much slower A here. Slower. So this may be still a VA over a retrograde slow pathway. And then this one, goes via the
Another slow
slow
pathway.
pathway and then comes up via the
Returns
fast
to the
pathway
fast.
itself. So there are
Yeah.
various ways in which you could explain it. Basically, there is multiple antigrade, retrograde inputs of different conduction velocity, looks like. But yes, AVNRT is the only tachycardia which can present this way.
Now, hello.
Yes.
Hello, JP.
Now, can I get some inputs from Professor John Roshan and Lawrence, and then I'll put in my some of my comments.
Thank you, Professor JP. That was a lovely case, Dr. Yadave, and you went about it very nicely. I just wanted to make one comment, and that was when you had shown us the slide showing us the VA Venki Bach, where the A
Yes.
was sort of moving away from the V with a
Yeah,
sort of
I will go back here.
yeah. So just for the
I will go back here.
just for the audience,
Yeah,
I just thought I'll make one point for the sake of the audience. The Venki Bach is, as you rightly said, Dr. Yadava, happening in the upper common pathway. And it can't be happening in either the slow or the fast pathway, because if the Venki Bach actually happened in either the slow or the fast pathway, the tachycardia would terminate. And for the tachycardia to keep continuing, like you rightly said, it has to be happening in the upper common pathway. Otherwise, it won't be able to be explained. The other doubt I just wanted to clarify with you is you said it can't be a nodoventricular because the VV was varying. I mean, why do you say so? I mean, why can't we have a varying VV and it's still being a
that's a variation of, I have not seen any nodoventricular or I have ablated nodoventricular, nodovascular previously also, but not shown such a variation of this type.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Yadave. And over to Dr. Jesuraj.
Yeah, you have to unmute yourself, Dr.
Yeah. Thank you for the wonderful case. One doubt I had: you had multiple slow pathways participating in the circuit. When you were ablating, do you had any difficulty in finding
only
out
one
the slow pathway
ablation?
The
Yeah, only
usual
one slow pathway region ablation, and tachycardia was dual physiology went away. Tachycardia was not inducible anymore.
So you could not see any other slow pathway after that?
No.
Once you ablated one slow pathway.
Yeah.
So
in tachycardia, all these things happened, but after ablation, dual physiology went away and no tachycardia was induced.
So can I get some input from Yash, my teacher?
Yeah, JP. No, I mean, I feel that as Amit said, there are several. This just shows that in AV and RT, we have not still understood the AV node. Now, for example, if we accept Yadav's explanation, that means there is a retrograde slow pathway, multiple, and at the same time, the antigrade slow pathway next beat gets engaged. That means the connections of the slow pathway to the atrium are totally disparate. So the VA goes up by the retrograde slow pathway and engages another slow pathway. This is really difficult to imagine. And it would have been good to be able to. So sometimes remains conjecture. Sometimes it remains conjecture. Nodoventricular, as John Roshan rightly said,
slow pathway and retrograde fast pathway is not same. It may be different.
Yeah. But what I'm trying to say is that you are saying that sometimes the long VA goes up by a retrograde slow pathway and comes back via another slow pathway antigradely. This is a little difficult to conceptualize. My second point, what John said, in nodoventricular, the RR can be irregular RD because when you're talking of nodoventricular, the antigrade limb is going by the AV node. So again, if you have multiple inputs into the AV node, the RR can vary, though it's not reported. But theoretically, in a nodoventricular, the RR can vary. I'm not saying this is nodoventricular. I'm convinced this is a very unique AVNRT. But in nodoventricular, the RR can theoretically vary.
No, Yadave.
Yes.
Okay. We have listened. Can I? It's not for myself. Yash has brought out certain very pertinent things. See, first is I always say to my students, see, I'm basically just like Yash, and Amit, I'm a teacher. Okay. So the first thing I tell my students is not to assume anything. The first thing I say is I go with the null hypothesis, which says that I don't know. I don't know this tachycardia. So when you say that, then we start doing our maneuvers. So did you do para-Hessian pacing?
No.
So I think when you are in difficulty, you have to start doing all this. You know,
No. Para-Hessian
listen, my friend. Okay.
Huh.
Okay, this is a scientific forum, my friend. Okay. We are dealing with something. We can't hypothesize something and say that, look, this is it. I've done a slow pathway ablation and it went away. That's fine. But as a teacher, if some student of mine presents like this, I'll ask him, have you done para-Hessian pacing? What was the response? Did you have a sustained tachycardia? And during the sustained tachycardia, what was the his to his and his to A association? And what are the maneuvers you did?
Sir, can I ask here?
No.
What way in this tachycardia para-Hessian pacing will help? Does it excludes, you want to say this tachycardia itself excludes extra nodal bypass tract. So in what way para-Hessian pacing will help? I don't think it is of any use in this tachycardia if it is inducible like this.
No, this is not a scientific way of dealing with it, Dr. Yadve. You know, we have to be science. You know, electrophysiology is a science. It's a physiology. It is not anatomy. Okay? Please believe me. I accept it. I and Yash have been doing this for a hell of a long time. And for me, I sleep electrophysiology, I wake up electrophysiology. But nevertheless, I don't assume, even today, if I have an AVNRT, they have to have a para-Hessian pacing in my lab. Okay? So when we are talking in a scientific form, we don't go with an assumption. Then it has what is called as an error.
No. If I have a suspicion, I must do para-Hessian pacing. We start with para-Hessian pacing, whether it is any pathway, extranodal pathway or not. But if we know it is not the...
If you have already visualized, I mean, you are so far ahead of me that you have already visualized the AVNRT, man. I can't, in this case, I would do every single maneuver for an SVT. I would suggest...
Maneuver you will do during this tachycardia, sir.
Listen to me, Dr. Yadve. Let us not be very, it's not that I'm arguing with you. These are teaching sessions that we are putting forth. So we are teaching some youngsters there. So when we are doing that, we have to teach what is right. So let them also not assume things. When we are doing teaching sessions, we are teaching them how to go through stepwise, how to approach its supraventricular tachycardia. We are not going to show that I can do this tachycardia. So we have to get away a little bit from this aspect. So in interventional cardiology, it is, I can do left main. So I'll put a left main this thing. So that is something different than electrophysiology, where we go ahead and say that, look, this is the way I approach it. If you see Warren Jackman's presentation or, Samuel Asirwadam's, that is the way they go. So it is not that they assume that it's already an AVNRT, it's already a slant pathway. It is how we approach it. So it is not, I'm against it. No, you are perfectly right. You see, you are far ahead of me. For me, I would have had 100 questions in my head with this tachycardia. But when I had these questions in my head, I would have done every single maneuver for this patient. Okay, every single. And there are two very fine papers in PACE. So I don't know, I'll put it up in our IHRS, this thing. Very fine 2 papers of maneuvers in supraventricular tachycardias, which I have, which probably will help the younger generation. But this is how we should go about it. It is, see, we should not go with an assumption, please. There is
agree, sir, agree.
Huh? So, see, don't go with an ego. For me,
No, it's not ego. Here, no maneuver will work. You have to explain with the whatever you have.
It is what is the importance of these things. It is to show the maneuvers, how we have proved it.
I think,
JP, can I just make one point?
Yes.
One on what JP says, already two maneuvers that I think which would have been interesting. See, we generate science by doing something. We don't know whether it will be useful or not. For example, in a tachycardia like this, if you had given adenosine, I would have been very interested to see what happens with adenosine. The second thing, if you had have shown couple of slides of the ventricular pacing, when you said concentric and decremental, but you know, a multipolar catheter across the his. These are very unique tachycardia. You've shown 1 in a million case. So closely spaced octapolar across the his in such a case, you know, and then showing the retrograde conduction pattern. When you say there are multiple routes, there is a retrograde fast and a retrograde slow. Is there a sudden jump in the retrograde conduction? Does it change from being earliest in the his bundle region to earliest in the coronary sinus versus in between? So these sort of added informations would make the things even more, you know, more understandable and more. Then we can accept the explanation. That's all I'm saying.
In electrophysiology, I think we should be scientific rather than being arbitrary. So that's what I'm saying. For me, you know, that's what I teach my students.
Okay, sir.
So
let me.
Sorry, no. That's how my brain is built.
So today is the day of dissociation. I will show second case of dissociation.
Yes.
Just let me share. Are you able to see my slides, sir?
not yet.
Not yet.
You have to start sharing your screen.
Selvaraj in somewhere in Switzerland.
So just a minute.
Kindly share your screen.
Share, it's not just a minute. Have I not unshared?
You have unshared now. Kindly share again.
Oh, I have to share this screen. Just a minute, madam.
Sure, take your time.
Okay. Are you able to see my screen?
No, Dr. Yadve.
Just a minute. Just a minute. Okay. Just how to share this? Share.
Yes,
Oh,
now you are sharing. But
Block
open
black.
your presentation is not seen still.
Okay, presentation I will open. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so today is the day of dissociation. So let me show another dissociation. AV-NRT with retrograde RA block, RA and LA dissociation. So 65-year-old female presented with recurrent paroxysmal palpitation for 10 years. She is a known case of hypertension. ECG during tachycardia was of regular narrow QRS tachycardia with incomplete RBBB pattern and terminal S wave in 2-3 AVF, suggestive of AV-NRT. Echo showed concentric LVH with ejection fraction 65% with LV relaxation abnormality. She was taken up for EP study, and this is the intracardiac during sinus rhythm. And there is a small his seen in the arrangement is as usual 1, 2, and V1 HRA. His distal, his proximal, and CS 9, 9, 10 means proximal to distal and RVA distal here. And you can see the his bundle here in proximal. So this is the tachycardia, which is induced on ATEL extra. And you see the A is dissociated, but A size is varying. So I thought it may be the HRA is dissociated. Clearly seen, sir. But CS is clearly associated. CS is clearly associated. So here I thought my RA catheter is not in proper position. So what I did, I put the RA catheter in proper way, and clearly RA is dissociated from the CS. CS it is associated. So what I did, I put the RA catheter, HRA catheter in proper way, and then stimulated the ventricle. Just a minute. Here, spontaneous ventricle extra came, which is fused ventricle, and which did not pre-excited the next heat. So next is at least unlikely to be having bypass with this dissociation. in the HRA. So clearly, and this atrial, this ventricular extra, which is spontaneously came, is not able to pre-excite the his. So we did the ventricular burst pacing faster than tachycardia, 20 millisecond faster than tachycardia. If you see the this atria is associated with the distal means proximal is early, proximal CS is early is associated, but the right side, even his area is not associated. There is no association. This this is the this is your HR. This is the atria which is dissociated, totally dissociated. Right atrium and right side his atria is also dissociated, but CS is completely associated with the ventricular burst pacing, and this is pacing during the tachycardia. So what has happened is that this behind the tendon of Todaro, the fast pathway there, this RA area is blocked, and so it is not conducting on the RA area, and it is going through the interatrial septum to the roof of the LA, and then to the CS, and then from the floor of the CS entering into the fast this area fast pathway, and then again this, and this area is got blocked. So this is this clearly indicates that RA is not the part of the circuit in AVNR. That's what we can conclude. And retrograde block selectively may occur in the RA in AVNRT with preserved conduction to LA septum from fast pathway and then to roof of the CS and back to fast pathway through slow pathway conduction from the floor of the CS. Retrograde block occur posterior to tendon of Todaro. This epiphenomenon of RA-LA dissociation proves no need of RA for AVNRT circuit, and slow pathway ablation done with the loss of dual AV nodal physiology without inducible any tachycardia. Many people by ECG, if they think that this is AVNRT, many people do not put the CS, then they will miss, they will say that this is narrow QRS tachycardia with VA dissociation, and all the differential diagnosis, AVNRT, junctional tachycardia, nodovascular or nodoventricular bypass tract mediated ORT, these will come in the differential diagnosis. So CS catheter is a must, even in AVNRT, and RA catheter is also must to demonstrate that there is no association.
Fantastic case. I think this is something which I must admit I am seeing for the first time. I mean, the previous case, we have all encountered such types of AVNRT, but RA-LA dissociation in an AVNRT, and Yadav, you did wonderful by doing the maneuver of pacing the ventricle and very elegantly showing how the CS and the atrium in the CS and the atrium in the RA were completely dissociated. Great case. So in literature, have you come across such cases? This is, according to me, publishable.
Yes, sir. 15 years back, there is one case report published in JCE, but I could not show you at the present moment. But that only one case report I have seen where RA-LA is dissociated in AVNR. Published in JCE.
So in your concluding remarks, you mentioned that RA is not necessary for AVNRT. Well, no, atrium in general may not be necessary for AVNRT. But here you have shown that RA and LA is dissociated. That's very, very unique. And JP, your and other moderators' comments, please.
I'll be the last to comment.
I'll make one quick comment. I'm not a moderator, but I've never seen this also.
You are a super moderator. Yeah.
No, I don't put a
this thing shirt that you're wearing, my friend.
No, this is nothing to do with saffron. This is my night suit. Anyway, so Yadav, this actually I don't put a RA catheter, and now I'm encouraged to put a RA catheter after seeing your two cases, but I have never seen this type of thing before. And as Amit says, this should walk into any journal. Yadav, you publish much less. You show many interesting cases, but you don't publish much. That is my grudge.
Sir, I don't get time to all these things. But if anyone can publish, I can give the material.
And again, as JP says, we must be scientific. Your catheter is in the high right atrium. So what
Yeah.
you can say is that the high right atrium is not a part of necessarily part of the circuit. Should not generalize from this and say that the atrium, right, full right atrium.
No, right atria in general, where it is
For
blocked.
all you know, if you had an electrode catheter in the low right atrium, they could have the block in the atrium. We don't know where it is. So all you can say is that at least this is a unique case. You should publish it, but be tempered in your statements. Say what you see.
Yes.
Amit?
So I'm going to show the last case again, dissociation,
Before
which I cannot explain.
let's have some discussion, Dr. Yadve. Don't be.
Yes, yes.
You are just like an angioplaster. You're going to one case after the other. You are an see, you don't have time to publish because you're doing every damn thing in this cardiology. I don't do anything. I hardly do any damn thing. So John, any comments?
Yeah, I think it was a wonderful case, and I've never seen something like this where you have an AV NRT with dissociation and between the atria, and clearly the area where Dr. Yadve had his catheter obviously was dissociated from the tachycardia. But we've seen this kind of phenomenon in atrial tachycardias as well as atrial flutters and fibrillations where you've got atrial disease. There we've seen it, but this is the first time I'm sort of seeing this in an AV NRT. I've not seen this before. It was very well done, Dr. Yadve. Very nice.
Dr. Lawrence, any comments? Do you have Dr. Lawrence here? Dr. Yadve, it's a very interesting case, but I still think that as an electrophysiologist, we have to go with the null hypothesis whenever we are approaching a difficult case. Okay. I always tell my student, this is what has been taught to me by my mentor, Dr. John Kalman. If you have a case which you have failed or has come back again with a recurrence, start right from the beginning. Never assume anything. This should be your principle. So the moment you say that, look, I don't have this, I assume this, your whole thing goes away.
Agree, sir.
Okay. So this is something which I want to pass on to everybody. So even when you have your own case coming back to you with a recurrence or an interesting case, please start with it. The second thing is, as Dr. Warren Jackman said, I hope you have listened to his talks, the wonderful talks arranged by Vanita and J&J. I spent a lot of time listening to it. I recorded it. I still listen to it. The most important thing between the Europeans and what Warren Jackman did was he had a lot of catheters.
Yeah.
Okay. So you cannot say, for me in my lab, I have been taught classically from, Melbourne. All of our catheters from for CS is from the IJ. So every one of my fellows can do IJ. Every case has to have an IJ, a higher right atrial catheter, and they have to do every maneuver, including his synchronized VPC, parahesian pacing, and even pacing from various sites to prove that something is there. So only then, if we are systematic, you're going to get the answer. Otherwise, you'll have all these fantastic things going on, and then you're still confused as to what is going on. So it is this thing that we can't take shortcuts. Finally, this is electrophysiology. We are not reacting to like a stenosis, right? So I think the more electrograms that we have, the more we learn. Correct? So that
we have to be more catheter.
No. For in my lab, high RA, CS, RV, everything is there. All maneuvers are done. So it makes sense. And if you are able to, being in a journal, this thing, they, as a peer reviewer also, and most of us have been, including Yash and Amit, there will be questions which are asked. Have you done this maneuver? Can you give us this? When you're not able to give these maneuvers, then your case report falls away. We are not able to publish because we are not systematic.
Agree. Agree, sir.
You understand? We are in a hurry to go from AVNRT to angioplasty, from angioplasty to left main, from left main to tower, from tower to this thing. So it doesn't work. Right? So you're a master of all.
But my passion is electrophysiology, sir. I do many things, but passion is electrophysiology.
That's okay. But you can say that, look, I have 5 wives. I have one passion of one wife.
Electrophysiology is my another wife.
So when we are presenting in this, so if we have all the maneuvers done very systematically, then there is a scope for publication. Because as a reviewer, I would always ask you, have you done this maneuver? Give me this. So when you have not done this maneuver, it falls down. Would you agree with me, Dr. Yash?
Yes, sometimes though I agree that we have to balance practicality with, but we have to, when you see such a case,
so
you can't leave it with.
Even when you do such a case, they'll still ask you, can you give me this? If you are going to publish in something which is a very high impact journal, they will still ask, because for me, I have had rejections because I have not done a single maneuver.
No, so my point was, the moment you see something very unusual,
everything
should be put on hold. You should do your maximum, as JP says, you should do your maximum to bring out all the information so that you cover every possible corner, anticipate. Just think that this case is unique and spend time on it.
That is what I wanted to bring up. See, the whole idea of all this series is to bring out the best in us. You understand? So we can do everything. Yes. So it is not that we are not able to do it, but it is to bring the best in us.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm just going to show last dissociation. First, let me answer.
Is it brain dissociation or?
It is only dissociation, sir.
Ah, okay. So now
are you able to
sort of getting dissociation, because I see Vanita eating something and Yash eating something.
It will be only 2 minutes, sir. And, I want you all people.
And my brain is also getting dissociated.
So anyone able to see my slides?
No, we can see you very well.
Okay, not the slides. Let me share it again. Are you able to see my slides, sir?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So another dissociation. Again, these are all the old cases 10 years back. So this is AVNRT with dissociation in the LA and CS. So this is another 2-minute case. I want you people to
now, Dr. Yadve, what is the senior consultant and student? I'm very interested in this very peculiar. Hello, can you hear me?
No, I think Dr. Yadve's connection got disconnected. He's on a stage.
So his brain is disconnected, or his connection is disconnected? I don't know.
I think his network, it's a network issue probably. So if we can, sir, move on to Dr. Suchit's presentation, please.
Yes, I think we should, because we spend a lot of time here. So I think we should move on to Suchit. Yeah. JP, I just had a quick pani puri brought by my neighbor. I was hypoglycemic.
So both you and Vanita are making me hypoglycemic. And yeah, I see Amit yawning. He's tired after doing so many ablations, I think. But it's good, you know, it's nice to be amongst friends.
It's been a lazy Saturday for me.
Oh, so you have a very busy Saturday, I presume.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, you are, Suchit, but we can't see your face.
No, that is maybe, okay, anyway. So we'll start the
Let me
case.
see your face too.
Okay, 1 second, sir. I think,
Switch on your
yeah. Now it's okay. Now it's fine.
fan above your head.
Okay. So basically, this is a
Keep the fan above your
case.
head.
Yeah, there is actually this case I had done a couple of years back.
Wonderful.
This is more to do with the EP of the case and to understand some phenomena. It is not that I have understood fully the case, but I think I should discuss that case so that we understand better. So this was a 27-year-old man who presented with actually he was a sports person basically. He used to do heavy activities, gym and everything. So he had palpitations on severe exertion, and that time sometimes after the palpitation he used to have some episodes of pre-syncope, not frank syncope. That was the presentation. She was not having any symptoms, means at rest or something like that. All were on severe exertion. The echo was normal. ECG, I will go to that. It showed. Uh, can you see the slide? It's not going. 1 second. Okay. So this is the ECG. ECG was showing a incomplete RBB type of pattern, not very typical also of RBB. There is a northwest axis, 200. So this was actually, and that was normal in this patient. So we took for an EP study. So baseline, it showed that there is a prolongation of the HV interval, and also there is an increase in the his duration that was more than 30 milliseconds. So that was somewhat unexpected for us. The patient was not on any drugs, nothing like that. So it was found here. The tachy, which was coming on and off during the EP study, it was coming spontaneously, and this was the tachy morphology, which was similar. The QRS morphology was similar to a sinus morphology. The rate was around 120, 130 beats per minute, and it was spontaneously coming and going. So then the intracardiac of the tachy showed it was a HVA of tachy. The HV interval during tachy was similar to a sinus interval. The interval was 154 milliseconds in the RA from the RA. So the cycle was slow. It was around that only 110, 120. This thing. 100. So during the tachy, we observed this, there was some wobble. So we tried to find out what was driving what during this tachy. And what we could find out, the HH was driving the VV and it was driving the AA, like that. So HH was the driver of this tachy, we thought. And that's why we thought that this is something, maybe something like a junctional or something like junctional tachy, because there was significant cycle length variation also. And also we can see at the end, there was the VA interval also is prolonging, and RR interval is shortening. With the shortening of the RR interval, the VA interval is prolonging, and all this is QRS is preceded by a HIS. So we thought it's a junctional tachy and maybe automatic because there is significant cycle length variation. So AV Wenckebaching was seen, and that was around 280 milliseconds. So when we were pacing faster, then actually the morphology became as LBVB, and the HV interval had increased that time to about 100 milliseconds when we are pacing faster. During the tachy, ventricular entrainment was done just to see that whether it's something like, but it was not a DD, but we wanted to rule out any what is the mechanism. So we paced the ventricle and we found that it was VA and V response. So this was the LBEB aberrancy, which was found when we paced at a faster rate, and this was actually an extra, giving rise to an LBEB aberrancy. This was one of the tachy onset, where we can see that the PR, and then the tachy starts with a shortening of PR, with the QRS coming earlier, and then it was a VA relation. And this was a tachy termination. Every time the tachy, when it was termination, there was significant cycle length variation, and shortening of the cycle length before it was getting terminated. It is not the prolonging, the last was prolonging, but this sort of pattern was there every time. There was a shortening and then one more beat and then it was stopping. On isoprenaline, the tachy was significantly sped up actually. This was something catecholamine responsive, we thought, and more of junctional like that. So the findings were that the tachy QRS morphology was same as sinus QRS morphology. The onset of tachy was spontaneous. There was significant cycle length variation during tachy, and HH interval was driving of the tachy. We thought it's a likely junctional tachycardia. There was a baseline His-Purkinje system disease, and we thought it automatic because the onset was spontaneous. There was significant cycle length variation, and it was significantly responsive to isoprenaline. So junctional ectopic tachycardia is actually usual. This automatic tachycardia is not a common arrhythmia in the adult, so it is usually seen in pediatric cases, mostly after a post-operative case, which involves the manipulation of interventricular septum or damage to the AV conduction. And some authors have underlined the importance of the His bundle fibers extensive disruption or focal degeneration or splitting as a cause of this arrhythmia. And only few papers have reported junctional tachycardia onset in adulthood. They have recommended medical therapy in form of 1C antiarrhythmic amiodarone and beta blocker can slow down the arrhythmia but does not completely do away. But here the consideration was that the patient was already having a infra-ECR disease and class 1C antiarrhythmics, and amiodarone may not be safe for this patient. Radiofrequency ablation represents a valid alternative, although in most cases it has to be followed by pacemaker implantation. And the coexistence of a infra-Hisian or intra-Hisian disease and JET can be explained by the possibility of warming up phenomena. That is, if there is a conduction disturbance, then what happens is that otherwise silent automatic focus down the way, they actually start firing, and this gives rise to a junctional tachycardia. That is one of the mechanisms which can explain the coexistence of intra and infra-Hisian disease and junctional tachycardia. In this patient, he was treated with beta blocker only, which resulted in significantly improved symptoms. And we thought that if he had further symptoms later on or syncope, something like that, then we have to put a pacemaker and give antiarrhythmic drugs. That's all. And this case is something which is not very common. That's why I thought I would share.
Suchit.
Yes, sir.
See now, before you say that this is a junctional tachycardia, couple of things can you show us? One is, what about the retrograde conduction pattern and the intracardiacs at the time of initiation?
It was automatically coming. I'll just have to open and show.
Also, did you give an early and a late PAC? And see
we give that. We gave that. Actually, I have mentioned here. This was we gave a late PAC. It did not pull the next V. Early PAC I had given, but I could not find out that late PAC we had given.
So Suchit, not 100% convinced that this is definitely JET and that there are no other differential diagnosis. Like you have put this slide here. Let's go through them. Now, significant cycle length variation during tachy, HH preceding VV and AA. Now, for argument's sake, if you have an AVNRT with multiple slow pathway and different slow pathway conduction, again, the same thing will happen, that HH will precede VV and AA. So I'm not sure about that. VAV response on entrainment is actually, to my understanding, not in favor of a JET. Late PAC, if again is during the his refractory period, may not pull the next V. So I think these are the features which don't necessarily confirm that it is JET. But yes, the automaticity, the incision nature and sudden change in rate and the baseline His-Purkinje system disease, these things kind of favor jet. So again, in this, I think we would require more maneuvers
Yes.
to be able to define that this is definitely jet and we are not dealing with AVNRT, which, at times can present in funny manners. I guess you have shown here the change in cycle length, but with the change in cycle length, one could technically assume that it could be a rapid conduction over a slow pathway, and then the retrograde conduction becomes a little delayed. So again, you are having something like a VA conduction delay till the VA blocks and tachycardia terminates. So I'm not convinced based on this that this is jet. I would definitely want to sustain the tachycardia. You did it by giving isoprenaline. Once the tachycardia is sustained, then again introduce your PVCs, PACs, and try to see what happens, because to me, I'm still unsure of the diagnosis.
Another thing, what happened, I didn't mention it. When I had given isoprenaline, it was significantly the heart rate increased, significantly. Those images I have. And it degenerated into a VF. So I had to shock it.
Oh. So then I think, the other thing is that the young man with significant His-Purkinje system disease, in fact, the ECG itself doesn't look good. And I was also wanting to know that, have you done any other imaging? What is
Cardiac
the...
MRI we had done, actually. Cardiac MRI, they have mentioned it as normal. Actually, we have seen also. This is normal.
Cardiac MR was normal?
Yes, it was normal. We have done. That's why we thought that because the ECG was abnormal, we thought that echo is not adequate. We have done MRI. But that was...
I think something is amiss here.
That is why I thought that I will...
Did you try pacing to see what the response was when you came off pacing?
Which one, sir?
Atrial overdriving at a faster rate and then come off pacing to see what the response is?
That you are telling linking or all these things is there or not? For linking?
No, to look at whether it's an AHA or an AHHA.
No, I don't. I think I have not done it. No.
Okay.
Can I comment?
Yes, of course you can, Dr. Yadve.
Onset at short PR, then normal, cannot be jet, and cannot be AT. It can be anything, but cannot be jet, cannot be AT.
So, Yash, do you have any inputs from your side?
No, as I was saying, he has to show, I wanted to see the intracardiacs at the time of initiation, which somehow has not been shown. And can we see the His bundle polarity during tachycardia and the His bundle signals in sinus rhythm side by side? No, you have that trait where you have sinus rhythm.
Whether upper cervical VT was ruled out.
No, sinus rhythm and tachycardia and the same slide or side by side, his signal.
Side by side, I don't have. I just am showing it. This is the sinus rhythm.
Yeah. No, you had one slide where, tachycardia terminates and you have sinus or something like that.
Yeah, that is there. Yes. Yes.
No, but we don't see the His signal there.
That is not very clear. That's why we can see this signal, but
Suchit, how do you explain the VAV response or with jet?
Because jet means whatever we do, the fast has to be a His which is coming. So whenever we are pacing, this V is going to A, this V is going to A, this V is going to A, like that. And then when we stop pacing, then the beat which is coming can be the His as a first signal also, if it is a jet. Now, for example, if it is going at a rate...
I think, Suchit, in this slide, the A to me in the right atrium looks pretty constant. Are you sure that you have entrained the atrium? Have you measured that the AA intervals are shorter with the ventricular pacing and then they are longer? Because not very obvious here.
Okay, well, actually, I have to see again. Definitely.
Yeah, because they look pretty constant. So maybe there is VA dissociation when you're done overdrive ventricular pacing.
Yeah, that may be also, yes. Sir.
Can I start?
Yeah, the other thing, Sujit, was I was just wondering if you actually documented the way the his bundle was being activated, just to make sure that we're not dealing with something like an upper septal VT or
Okay.
one of those coming close to the conduction system.
So, sir, upper septal VT, if it is there, then should it have this the HV also like this, or it should be slightly shorter than a sinus HV?
Yeah, correct, correct.
Suchit,
Yes, sir.
sorry, you have been put through quite a rough patch.
No
But
problem.
nevertheless, let's be very scientific. Now, was this a paroxysmal tachycardia or an incessant tachycardia? First thing.
He came as a complaint of palpitations only during significant exertion. But when we took in the lab, it was coming off and on. It is not like that.
Did you do a Holter on this guy?
I don't remember doing it.
So, junctional ectopic tachycardias are usually incessant. It's an ectopic automatic tachycardia. These are not tachycardias which are induced by program stimulation. So, the first thing, when we go back, because here you have gone close, so close to the tree, you have missed the forest. Okay. So when you are inducing a tachycardia with extra stimulus and isoprenaline or program stimulation, it is something different. It could even be an AVNRT, which you have mistaken for a junctional ectopic tachycardia. All jets are automatic, they are incessant, they are one of the tachycardias which produce LV dysfunction. If I have such a patient, I would still do a Holter and see how much of the time this patient has been in tachycardia. Number two is that you will not be able to sort of terminate this tachycardia at any time. You have terminated this tachycardia. Ectopic tachycardias cannot be terminated. They will still continue to come in. All right?
Yeah.
So I think when we sort of start labeling these things in the way we want it, we have to be extremely critical about the way we think what we are doing. We have, the problem with many of us is we assume things and go. For me, I teach people not to assume things. I go with what is called as a null hypothesis. I don't know. If you go with the knowledge that I know this tachycardia, then you're creating mistakes. For me, most of the times, I don't know what this damn tachycardia is. So for me, give me clues, give me things which makes me diagnose. So if you're going to terminate this week, I don't think, as Yash and others have put it, could be called as this thing. And now, let me tell you, now you have put this slide very nicely. Now you are measuring the post-pacing interval from the stim to the electrogram. Actually, you should measure from the electrogram to the next electrogram. Okay. So you should never ever, this is a teaching point for the students, that you're not measuring the post-pacing interval. You should measure it from the place where you are captured the myocardium to the next myocardial activation. So it makes a difference sometimes that you can miss some of the things. So these are some of the points that I would like to bring out for as a teaching point. So when we are talking about junctional ectopic tachycardia, they are incessant. I have had junctional ectopic tachycardias. I have, in one patient, I had to ablate the AV node and do a pacemaker because it was so incessant and developed LV dysfunction. They are mostly not, easily treatable by medications. Thank you.
Vanita, can we move to the next case?
Yes, Suchit, are you there? I think Suchit is having a problem. Hello, Suchit?
No, actually, I don't have any other case.
Okay, fine.
So-
You prepared one case?
Yeah, can you hear me, madam?
Suchit.
Hello.
Hello, Suchit.
Yeah, nothing.
It's a wonderful
Yeah.
case, but nevertheless, when we are doing all these things, we have to be critically asking ourselves, am I doing the right thing? What is it that I missed? So the most important thing is not to assume things, but to go with this thing that I don't know. Let me capture more information.
Mhm.
The more information we have, that's electrophysiology.
Definitely.
Intervention is you see something, you act on it. You see a stenosis, you react. Electrophysiology, you contemplate.
Mhm.
You don't react. You contemplate and then react. That is the difference.
Yes, sir.
Hmm?
Definitely, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope I have not that's the way I teach my students, but nevertheless.
No problem. It's important to understand, and then that's why I thought that this case.
It's a wonderful teaching case. It's a absolutely wonderful teaching case.
I was also, I think, 2 years, 2-3 years back. So I was also not that much.
Oh, wonderful. These are the things that we should share and then discuss rather than say that, look, I mean, I'm a student every day. I like that thing of Dr. Yadve. In fact, I am going to put that up in my slides. Consultant and a student. So I'm an eternal student. Wonderful.
Suchit, do you have another case?
No, madam.
Oh, one case only?
Yeah, one case only.
Can I show, madam? Then the last case which I was showing, can I show?
Yeah, please, Dr. Yadve, we are expecting you.
Okay, so ask the Suchit to answer and then I will show. I will show just. Okay.
Please do it, Dr. Yadve. You're always entertaining us. Don't worry about it. We learn a lot of things. Not a problem. Please go ahead.
So, are you able to see my slides?
Fortunately, we are, but we are seeing it in about.
Yes, are you able to see my slides?
But very fast.
Are you able to see my slides?
We are able to see, but also we are seeing people talking behind you. Ask them to please keep quiet.
Okay. I have told them not to talk. Okay, so this is 35-year-old female presented with recurrent palpitation for 10 years. ECG during palpitation showed regular fast narrow QRS tachycardia with suggestive of ECG was suggestive of AVNRT. Baseline ECG normal, echo showed structurally normal heart taken up for EPRF.
Hello, Dr. Yadve.
Yes, sir.
Can we go to the?
Yes, I am able to hear you.
No. Can we go to the presentation? First slide, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Now
this is my first slide.
No. This I like this because I'm going to change this thing also, professor and student. Next slide, please. So I'm going to tell you.
This is the.
There is nothing like suggestion of AVNRT. Okay, it could be a septal accessory pathway. So we have to when we are looking at an ECG, we have to tell whether it is a short RP tachycardia or a long RP tachycardia, not suggestion. That means that you've already made an assumption that it's an AVNRT. So you are making already a diagnostic mistake. This is a teaching. You see, so I'm trying to say I'm sure Yash will agree with me.
Great.
Thanks.
Yeah, I agree, sir. What you said is correct. So here I want to show something which I have not seen before. That's why I'm going to present this case. I want you people's opinion also. So this is the tachycardia which is induced on atrial extra stimuli. This is the high right atrium. This is the ECG 2 and V2, and this is the his bundle distal, his bundle proximal, and this is the CS from proximal to distal, and this is the ventricle. And if you see, HRA is associated. There is some variation in the tachycardia cycle length, but HRA is associated. Even CS is associated, But there are two, another potential in CS, which is distal to proximal. Distal to proximal. Distal to proximal. And this is another CS potential is here proximal early. Near his proximal is early. So another one is septal, another is distal to. So what is the explanation for this? And maneuvers was done. So we did the ventricular overdrive pacing, and on ventricular overdrive pacing, there this is the capture has been confirmed, and this is VA. So that excludes atrial tachycardia. And then we did a post pacing measurement that was suggestive of that the tachycardia circuit, it's not bypass tract. And so this is already repeatedly inducible, repeatedly, even by overdrive pacing. If you see association is there, and thereafter dissociation restarts here. This is dissociated. This is dissociated and then blocked. This dissociation is a progressive, and then blocked here, and then again starts like this, and then goes here, progress, and then blocked. So so two atrial potential in CS, one from distal to proximal, and another one is which is typical, which is distal to proximal. Earliest is in the distal, that is his septal area. So and what I thought I could not explain this, so I went ahead, ablated, the junction was there, and thereafter no inducible tachycardia, dual physiology went away, and this is the place where I ablated the tachycardia. So this dissociation in CS catheter suggests different mode of depolarization of CS myocardium from distal CS to proximal CS in some CS myocardium with Wenck's back in Evenati with slow fast type, and successful RF ablation of slow pathway. This tachycardia could not be inducible anymore. So what we can, how we can explain this? So this is CS and LA dissociation.
Can I ask Dr. Yash to comment on it? He's intense.
No, Dr. Yadav, can you just keep this slide in full screen mode? Now the thing is, actually here we have.
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you able to see my slide, sir?
Yeah, I am able to see this slide.
Yeah. So
actually, Yadav, in this case, of course, you presented as a quick short case, but we needed to go a little systematically. The sinus rhythm, how are the signals? Because in the His region also, I don't see any His signals. So really, the catheters are not in a good position. Many of them, even the atrial signals are sometimes very minuscule. But we accept what you have told us at face value. How this tachycardia was induced, how this tachycardia was terminated. So we need to go through all those steps to come to any meaningful conclusion. Now, having said that, if we focus on this slide, as I understand, what you're trying to tell us is that in this narrow QRS tachycardia, there is a consistent atrial activation in the right atrium, but there is an inconsistent atrial activation in the coronary sinus electrograms, correct? That is what you're telling us?
Not only that, there are two potential in CS.
Yeah. So the two potentials in the coronary sinuses, one is the A and one is the V.
No, one B, one A, and you can see another A also.
Are we sure that is A and that is not a ventricular electrogram? How are we sure that is not a ventricular?
V is rounded, is far field. This is far field. This V is far field. This is near field is sharper.
I don't know. I'm not very convinced, because if we look beyond where there is only V, that's also quite sharp. No, there is no A.
No, here A is there. This is A. All A is associated. All beats are associated with A. Another A is here, which is Wenck's backing.
In the coronary sinus, recording, the next beat in the coronary sinus recording, that's just a V, correct? So
no.
If we look here, No, go to the next slide.
No, this is
Go
not
to the
V.
next slide. And forget the right atrium. I'm only talking of the coronary sinus. Forget the right atrium. Okay,
Yeah,
now stay on the
coronary
next
sinus,
slide. Go to the next slide.
Next.
Stay on this. No, this one. Stay on this.
Okay.
So here we can clearly see when you're pacing the ventricle that your ventricular electrogram and an atrial electrogram. So the coronary sinus is picking up both the ventricle and the atrium, correct?
Yeah.
And later on,
Here
your
it is clearly seen.
so the last, so I'm not clear what you're trying to tell us
Just
here.
let me intervene a bit. Now, look at these electrograms here. Dr. Yadve, what's happening here? I'll
Yes,
give you a clear this thing.
Yeah.
Now, do you see some sharp electrograms here, right?
Yes.
Okay, go back to your previous slide.
This one.
What happened? What happened to your electrograms in the atrium? They have become very small. You see, I'll tell you what, all our mistakes are done by electrograms. There is no contact.
Okay.
You can see no atrial electrograms in this. So you can say that left atrium is dissociated from the right atrium, right? So all these problems happen because our electrode position is not stable. Believe me. Go to the next slide. Go to the next slide. Now look at the high atrium in this. Can you see a stable right atrium? Yes?
Yeah, here because I am ablating, so I did the atrial electrogram.
Listen, my friend, go back. Go back. Now you will say my right atrium is dissociated. Why? See, this is a stable electrogram, while that is an unstable electrogram. And that is what causes your confusion. Number two, you have not done all the maneuvers.
Okay.
Okay. So two things are there in this from learning points. Have stable electrograms, which are stable throughout, where your electrical contact is stable. Number two, you should not be in a hurry to do a left main angioplasty in between an EP study. Do all the maneuvers and get the enough information, and don't say that I've done slow pathway ablation and got it out. That
1 minute on this slide, if I may interrupt, Yadav, you try to tell us in this slide that you have done, you have entrained
here you can see my.
You are not entrained. You are not entrained because if you see the last
this
channel.
is not entrained.
Okay,
No,
it's
here
not
is
entrained.
changing.
So there is no entrainment here.
No, there is no entrainment. He has not done a.
No, restarted. You see,
Yadve, please believe.
no entrainment here. Restarted pacing here.
No, Bhaiya, please believe me. We are in a scientific forum, Bhai. We are in a scientific forum. We are not trying to prove something that I've done a left main angioplasty and shown that left main is open. But here we have to show A, I have entrained it, A. B, I have done at least a minimum his synchronous VPC. I have done all the maneuvers to show that this is an AVNRT. And then I have ablated the slow pathway. And my electrograms are stable. These electrograms are far different from the electrograms from what you showed in the last slide, right? That means your catheters were not very stable at that point in time. Let us be very frank about it, because these are teaching, these are learning points for me. I am also learning from you. And we also have to look what are the filtering? How much did you filter? What was your filtering? What is his filtering? What is your this thing? I mean, all these things we should take as totally, rather than saying that, look, I got this. Look at these atrial electrograms. So they are so far different from your previous slide. Look at this. You say this E9. Look at these electrograms. You can see a small, 2 electrograms there. But in the previous one, you can't see a damn thing. That means your catheter is not stable. And then you can say that, look, my left atrium was dissociated from the right. It is like saying that, look, I went to my wife's house, she was not there or something like that, because nobody saw me. So I think we should, the most important thing, the teaching points from this, which I would probably put in, is that we should have A, stable electrode, catheter electrode positions. B, we should have enough electrograms there. C, we should do all the maneuvers in difficult cases when we present to say that this is an AVNRT, AVRT, septal accessory pathway. D, when we are saying that on ECG it's an AVNRT, we are not saying that it's an AVNRT. I don't know it's an AVNRT. It's a short RP tachycardia.
Yes.
Okay, so all these assumptions have to be taken away, and we have to start thinking scientifically in a way where we can project ourselves. All right. I hope I'm not I hope I'm not sort of being very.
JP, you made some pertinent points. Now we agree, Yadav, that you showed us as an interesting case. But can we go to the previous slide, because I think we should ask comments from others also on the previous slide, which we understand the limitations of the recordings of this case. But Amit, Anup, Haigreve, anybody else has some comments on this particular slide, which RD is showing, where he shows intermittently there is change in the atrial activation patterns. Now, it could easily be that you can have atrial ectopics coming in from the CS catheter, sometimes, changing the pattern where the distal comes before the proximal. But
absolutely.
Can we have comments?
See, when your catheters are very unstable, you can induce, atrial ectopics during the tachycardia, right? I'm sure that you agree with it.
Agree. So this, you think this is atrial ectopic from the distal CS? But it's Wenke backing. If you see this is increasing, gradually increasing.
No, but even the pattern is changing, RD. Look at the atrial pattern. They are simultaneous in CS.
Agree.
So the pattern is also, so it's very erratic. It's very erratic. I can't say it's Wenke backing because the activation pattern is erratic. It's not constant.
Here it is not there, sir. Here it is not there. Here it is there, but sequence is slightly different. And then sequence changes, and then interval increases. So this is possible because of multiple atrial ectopics coming out from the distal CS, because of unstable CS. No, just because I put only this electrogram, this is basic EP system was doing in a periphery, and I had no idea how to solve this problem. That's why I put this. This is not to show something, just to show what it could be.
Yeah. No, it doesn't make sense, because in the high right atrium, if you're telling me that those small in the third complex, for example, in the high right atrium, those are A waves which are constant, then how come those A waves in the CS are so far? So I think there are some artifacts, there are some catheter-induced ectopics, there's some problem with the recording system. I think this case really, frankly, I would give it a pass.
No. Yadve.
Okay, but this.
No. Listen to me, Dr. Yadve. See, many times what happens is when we are doing this program stimulation, we can also induce atrial tachycardias. Atrial tachycardias can have 1:1 VA. We can have VA dissociations. We can have VA associations. Isn't it? You can have all patterns.
Yes.
And some of these, we should look at it very critically. And then during a stable tachycardia, we should do all maneuvers. My takeaway this thing is just by one screen of this, we should not go and say that, look, this is a very unusual tachycardia, because this could even be, if you have used isoprenaline or program stimulation, it could be atrial tachycardia many a times. And atrial tachycardia can behave absolutely like this. And we also know that atrial tachycardias can be induced in any patient. Correct?
Yes.
So,
but this was consistently induced, sir. That's why
that is what you say, but we have to prove it by maneuvers.
Definitely.
You can't say that I have shown one slide and say that, look, This is what is consistently proved in my lab. It is my in science we are not this thing, Dr. Yadav.
Yeah, agree.
We have to be scientific, right? Right?
Agree, sir.
Agree?
I agree, because this was very basic EP system where I can't give V extra during.
So when we do
So
that,
that's why.
no, when we have this very basic EP system, then we also can't make any diagnosis.
Yes.
Yes. Then we assume that it's an AVNRT and ablate it. And sometimes they recur back after some time because we have not done all the maneuvers. Right?
Agree. Because in this system, the V extra was not there. His refractive V extra was his refractive VPCs was not there in the program.
No.
So I don't know. This is quite.
What I'm telling you is when we are presenting, we have to have all data when we present, so that these are teaching this thing. You know, for me, I'm a teacher after all. For me, I teach every day. Just like Yash has taught me and Amit have worked together, we have taught. So this is teaching. So when we are doing this, we have to have all our facts when we put forth in a forum. That's all I'm telling.
Okay.
Okay. Because
Yes.
then otherwise what happens, it's my word against yours. That's not science, right? I hope you agree with that.
No, correct.
It works very well in interventional cardiology, but I am not an interventional cardiologist. I don't do everything in life. So, Dr. Vanitha, can we sort of, I think we have past time. Oh, we have reached 9:30.
Yes, sir, we are.
Have I kept you entertained? Have I kept you entertained?
Yes, sir. It was very good teaching session, I must say. Dr. Yash, you would like to say some last words, please?
Yeah, I think that this was an excellent start with a couple of very, very unique cases. Vanitha, next time when we have this, we probably we learn as we go. I think we probably next time have like this 4 cases sent to the moderators beforehand. But we should get more entries. If we got more entries, we can select 4 good cases. So we must encourage all our people to send in and make this a more vibrant session. It's been great for me, and I wish more of our youngsters would join in. And we should have maybe a few cases, but systematic. Every case makes 1 or 2 points. And as JP said, the full information should be at the background. So if someone asks, yes, this was done, this was done, this was done, this was done, so that everyone's satisfied at the end of the day and everyone learns. But it was a very good start, I must say.
I agree, sir.
Vanitha, you've been doing a wonderful job. I'm very glad about this.
Thank you, Dr. JP. Thanks. Coming from you, it means a lot to me. And, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Dr. Amit Vora, Dr. John Roshan. Lawrence, I think, is not here. And Dr. Yadav and Dr. Suchit. Really.
Sorry, I just think we should really appreciate and congratulate those who have presented today, because it's not easy to put slides up and make a presentation. And I think they've done a great job. And
wonderful. They have brought up some very, very important points.
Let's give them a virtual ovation.
And particularly Dr. Yadve.
Yes.
He's always so. I don't see him in his pink, coat.
Sir, he is in Patna. Patna is not that cold.
Ah, right.
He's
So
not
he's
pink,
everywhere. He's like Antaryami. He's all over the place.
It's orange, orange, not pink.
Orange is with Yash today. So he is a Shiv Sena. So you can't borrow it from Yash.